get the meeting started and actually welcome everybody, small crowd. Good to have some guests here and some things on the agenda. We've been doing a lot of updates to zoning codes and other things, so we'll have a little bit of old business to review, and then Dennis will invite you up to review with us what's going on with the new agenda items. So if we could, we'll start the meeting. Let's get the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so with the members that are here, we're missing a couple, but we have a quorum, so we'll ask folks if they've reviewed the minutes. And if they have, I will ask someone for a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Yep, moved. Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Let's just review old business. How did you make out? Most of this was spent around the food truck changes.
Yep, I did cleaned up a few things since our last meeting. Sent it out to the board here, sent it out to the mayor and the village board for comments. Didn't get any comments, but apparently there was some good feedback. There's going to be another final push for comments to see if there's any changes that need to be made, and then I guess it's going to get handed over to Bob to do all the legal aspect of it. So it is progressing, and like I said, I've been in contact with the mayor about it. We'll make sure it keeps going.
Yeah, that's some of the definitions. But I will. We've got a meeting this Thursday, so I will kind of push.
I emailed the mayor this morning, and I think he made another push for any comments to get them right out, back to me to see if there's any big changes. But it's progressing, and I think we're in pretty good shape with it. We just got to obviously have to get the final legal right on it. There's a few things that need to be cleaned up, but
it looks good.
Good. No, thank you for all the hard work to get on that. That's a rather unofficial business of this board, but it's good work for the
You mean the
village.
Codes Committee?
Yeah. It's good. The only other thing that was on and you mentioned it, Bob, a second ago, just to review, I don't know what this board's got left to do on Aspen Drive. Is there anything open there for us to do?
No.
Okay.
They may come for a variance on the size of the fence, but
he's got to get some other things resolved until he can.
he's got to get resolved. And he asked for a building permit, and the codes officer said that basically his position is that no building permits will be issued where there's existing code violations on a site.
Okay. So regarding that, there's no action for this board until we see something going on.
No, I only mentioned it because of your other...
Right. And I know that's still an open issue as well. So we'll just leave that until we hear more about it. And I'll actually ask folks at the office to see if they can give me an update on where things are. So, okay. Any other old business we want to discuss or need to discuss? Okay.
No.
Well, we'll move right along then. New business we've got, and Dennis, you get a chance, if you would, in a second, introduce yourself to the board. I know you emailed an application and some other paperwork. I don't have it officially yet, but what we want to do today is give you the opportunity to explain what you're proposing to do.
Okay.
I'm going to ask Bob, as the meeting goes on, for this is the first use variance I'm going to be faced with, okay? I mean, since this is a use variance I think we're considering.
Yes.
Yeah, we will be considering when we see the application of the form work. I just want to make sure that we get the opportunity to review everything that you need, and you may already know what you need for the public hearing and the board meeting that we'll have a month from now, and just to make sure that we can review that stuff to make sure it's all good. So that's what we'll take the opportunity to do today, if it's okay with you. You good?
Yep.
Okay, good.
First, I want to give a little history on the building. The building was the old strip.
Can I introduce myself?
Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry, this is my wife, Annette.
I'm Dennis's wife. My name is Annette Yoka. I'm coming from a long, far away Canada. So now I'm legal citizen, resident of the United States.
Wow.
So we purchased the building with a good intention of that building was finished the service on August, I guess, in August 2024. It was a big daycare over there. So the daycare closed, and we saw the building was on sale. We purchased the building. It's very convenient to us because we don't have a property just across the street. So we purchased the building with a good intention to continue maybe daycare services or something that is going to be very, very beneficial to the community. I'm sorry if I'm going to mix up with your United States terms, forgive me.
No.
We contacted several people who wanted to open the daycare. We made some visits to the building. They said it's pretty expensive, the rent, but in order for us to cover all the taxes, property taxes, school taxes, village taxes, so we have to keep the rent at a certain level. Dennis, out of his goodwill, he made a post on his Facebook account in Baldwinsville community Facebook page. He said, please tell us what kind of services you would like to see in this building. Lots of people said, we would like to have a daycare. Unfortunately, daycare business owners, they say the rent they will not be able to keep up with. And if we rent to the daycare, we're going to be in deficit.
Okay, let me just talk about a little
Yeah.
about this. Yep. So anyway, the history of the building was Stroman's Bakery. It was obviously a commercial building before they annexed Baldwin Hill into it, and they surrounded it with residential. Come along, Pat Hubby did a great job. It's a black building, not combustible. He did the drive it, and basically it's 10 studs, and it's a great building, good bones. It's 3 separate commercial spaces with separate utilities for each space. And so the daycare had opened up the hallway to make it one that still has 3 front doors on and 3 back doors, and separate plumbing for each space. So our goal was working with some people from Upstate Hospital, Access CNY, and Onondaga County's initiative to see more residential units, and specifically there's a huge shortage of fully handicapped. Our goal is to make this a fully handicapped paraplegic type of, where somebody rolling showers and to the utmost. So we're getting a lot of Access CNY is going to help us with the design and fitting of the place, and we've got some help from one of the departments of Upstate Hospital. So obviously it is, I guess it's commercial in a residential neighborhood. We're looking, 2 units would be, even now the units will be 1,000, 1,000, 1,000, and 1,500. To do 2 units, that means one would be 2,500, one would be 2, which would be excessive for both the cost. The other thing with the county we're working with, it, we have to rent to a certain level, income level, which obviously anybody who's handicapped is going to be within that level. So we'll fit that program. So we're looking. To the right of us is 2 families. And then to the left is a single family, and then we back up to Baldwin Hill, as you can see in the diagram. Just one second. Okay.
Yeah, so right now, it's, just so I'm clear, so right now it's zoned commercial?
No, it's wrong.
It's a general business commercial.
No, it's zoned RIA, residential 1A.
No,
Yes.
it's GB.
No, there is no
On our tax
GB
bill.
district in Baldwin.
Yeah, that was exactly
We're going by
the point.
we're going by the county tax bill.
Yeah.
It says commercial and GB.
That's the use, not the zone. In other words, it's what's called the use that was there before it came into the village was commercial or general business or commercial.
Okay.
And what it then is, as they say, grandfathered, it's a non-conforming use. But if you take a look at the village zoning map,
Yes, that's exactly what I'm looking at, the village zoning if you permit. So honestly speaking, it was my idea to convert this into 3 affordable, fully handicap accessible units, because I'm coming from Montreal. We are fully accessible for the wheelchairs and everything, and I walked through Baldwinsville Village I'm really sorry to say. I only see steps, and barriers. So there is no, I'm a handicapped person myself, but luckily I'm not in a wheelchair, and I know how hard it is for people to have accessible, affordable units. So this building is just a little bit over 3,500 square feet. If we're going to go with the R1, which is the unifamily, right? If we're going to disregard the grandfathers that there was a general business, and we're going to go on R1, we're not looking to make this building our residential property because we have.
But what I'm saying is, you would be getting a variance not from the, because if it were zoned B1, they wouldn't even need to be here. Right. Because in B1, the multifamily buildings that are in R2 are allowed. Mm-hmm. But it's R1A.
Yes, because when I was looking at the map, because we were approached by a company to sell the building right away, like right after the purchase, somebody approaches and they said, oh, perfect, that's a great location, a great non-combustible building. What we're going to do, we're going to extend back to the Baldwin Hill. It's right to the next property, a huge manufacturer, so it's going to increase traffic, noise, pollution, and that was not our intention. We want to do something good for the community. And as Dennis explained, we applied for the program that will allow us to convert this building into 3 residential units, because over 3,500 square feet, if we convert them to 2 or, God forbid, to 1, it's going to be not affordable. Not affordable. And Baldwinsville, as I see, when I came here, I also signed up for all the Facebook pages, so I see what people are talking about. And everybody's complaining that they are not able to get enough housing units, residential units, and those units, whatever they can have, they're absolutely not affordable. So we're willing to go with a program that is going to allow us and help us to keep the low cost. And we want to have professionals who's going to help us to convert to fully accessible wheelchair units. And it's going to be good. Also, we want to remove some, because there was like a big asphalt, whatever you call it, tabia, right? The area in the back. So we want to convert this to the green zone to have 3 backyards for the residents, so they can have not just affordable living space, but also, live a full life.
So to do what you want to do, I just want to be really as crystal clear as possible. Whatever it's zoned today, what does it need to be zoned to have a 3-unit?
Well, it would have to be R2, but they're looking for a variance.
Right.
But it would have to be R2.
Right, so it's got to go from the current zoning to R2 in order to achieve what you want to do.
Yeah, forgive my ignorance. R2 is 2 units, is that correct?
No, multifamily.
Multifamily, okay. Because in my mind it was like R1 it's 1, R2 is 2, R3 is 3.
The question, first of all, if you mind me asking a few questions.
No, please.
You are not going to construct any new structures. You are going to
absolutely not. It's just a division in between,
yes,
because it's a non-combustible building with the 3 separate units, and we do have layouts already. We're not putting any changes to a sewage system, any changes to electrical system, because it's already there. It's there. It's just asking, help me to convert myself and bring some good use to the community. That's what I see.
What you're going to need to show, for example, let me ask a question. If you were to tear down the building and then tear down all the driveway that's there and everything in back and put in a lawn and make it one single-family residential, the cost of doing that.
Oh, that will very expensive. That's going to be very, very expensive.
But you need to show the board that.
Well,
you want us to calculate the cost of tear down and rebuilding one?
Yeah, because what you need to do.
So showing we're doing something positive is
what you need to do to get a use variance is you need to show to the board that it is
If you don't mind, I'll take the
uneconomical.
notes.
It's uneconomical for you to utilize the property for the zoning in which it's currently established. In other words, in an R1A, you can have a single-family dwelling. You can also have a church if you wanted to, but
Church is just across the street.
that's right, there's no church.
Yeah, there's.
So, assuming that the board could say to you, well, why don't you, it's R1A, what is your hardship? If you can just tear down the house, tear up the driveway, and put in a lawn and make it a single-family residence, why don't you just do that? And the answer would be that it's uneconomic to do that.
Yeah, it's very
You can't do that. But we would need to have something, a letter or something from someone saying that the cost of doing all that would be X dollars. And
So you need like some kind of a.
yes, the rule that the courts in New York have set forth for use variances is dollars and cents proof. So the fact that you say, well, we have a hardship here, it's fine to say that, but you have to remember that coming before the Zoning Board of Appeals is like going to court. And you have to present evidence, and because whatever's in the record, if someone appeals this or decides to contest it, the courts would only have the record before them. That is what you offered in paper form or whatever, or if you had an expert coming to testify. So you will need to be a little specific on the actual costs involved and actually why it is a hardship for you and why it would be too expensive to convert the property back to what an R1A would allow.
Yeah, which doesn't necessarily mean ripping it down. I think you started articulating that before. You said, all right, if we bought this property to rent it as a single unit, it's not economical. It would cost too much. Even if you went to two, it would be not, right? You started talking
It's
about
not
that.
going to be affordable for people to rent.
That's fine, right. So what you're articulating is, again, the best use would be this building that's already kind of configured for 3 separate units to do something like that, and I think that's all Bob is saying.
Right, and then if you were to take the building the way it is, it really can't be used as a single-family residence. You'd have to, I mean, the way that it's set up, you would
And
have
then
to.
the alternative is just stay with the three commercial units. Yeah.
Well, as a matter of fact, how long has the property been vacant?
So the daycare was out in August, I think.
End of August.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is that,
6
I'm
months.
sorry, is that when you purchased it?
No, we purchased that. We made the offer in October.
First of the year.
And October, and with the closing, at the 27th of December, we officially purchased the building. Yeah. And our intention was go from one to another right away, even though we did have a meeting with the former director of the same daycare. She came to visit the building. She was about to see how we can figure it out. And with the purchase of the building, with the purchase price, obviously the property taxes will raise. So we did a calculation, and we even wanted to offer her some reduction of the price for first 6 months, and she still said it was unaffordable for her.
Yeah. There may be an issue as to the non-conforming use anyway, because our code does provide that if a non-conforming use or non-conforming use of a structure has ceased for a consecutive period of at least 6 months, then that non-conforming use goes away. So it could very well be that you couldn't use it for commercial use without a variance anyway. In other words, the object is, of course, with that kind of legislation, is that where you have a non-conforming use such as this, and it's zoned something else, If you leave it vacant or don't use it for a while, then it reverts back to what it's supposed to be.
Well, it was, no, that was first. The neighborhood was second. I mean, it was.
Yeah, no, but so at any rate, so I just, what needs to happen before the board is you need to just come in and show, look, even if we wanted to just make it into, or convert this to a single-family residence, the cost would be X. Here's what we have to do. Have a realtor or someone tell you that. The most we could get for it would be Y, and therefore, and what we would have to do to the property. Now, I don't know if there's any environmental issues relative to prior use going back to what it was used before.
No, that's basically how he stripped it to the slab, and
Yeah.
went through all that.
But before it was the daycare center. I don't know what it was.
There was a florist shop.
Oh, flower shop, okay.
Florist shop. He had a couple retail spaces.
All right.
Had three.
So at any rate, as I say, you just need to come in and say, look, I can't make this a single-family residence, and here's why. That makes sense to the board.
Well, and something else you said, I just want to clarify, because it may just kind of exacerbate the issue a little bit, but if a non-conforming use, which it was, sits for 6 months, and an applicant came back in 8 months, 9 months later and said, I want to make this a daycare center again. In theory, they need a variance
To do that.
To do that. So the folks that purchased the property are faced with getting a variance for the prior use, let's just say a daycare center, or the only thing they could use it for right now is just a single-family residential. That's it,
Yes,
without getting a variance for something.
correct.
Okay.
Or
So-
a church, right?
Or a church.
Or a church.
And I think or a school. I think
Yes.
it's accredited curriculum school or something, I think it reads.
But this, with the traffic and everything else, that doesn't make sense.
To use for school, there is no foot traffic over there. There is no safe pedestrian walk.
Right.
So it's not going to be useful for school or church because it's very hard. And it is already on the letter with the hardship, so there is no foot traffic over there, unfortunately. It's accessible by car. It's not far from Baldwinsville Village, from the Salina Street. However, if the village in the future will build a pedestrian sidewalk, there could be a possibility. Right now, it's accessible by car. For sure, for kids, for school, where the kids have to walk to school, it's not safe.
Well, none of that, but they would have to go through the Department of Education and everything else, and with everything else that needs to be done, that just is very impractical.
It's going to raise the cost immensely.
Yes.
Yep.
So to cut to the chase, I guess, what we want to know, do we spend this money on architecture with access CNY? Do we do this as a board? Does the board like this idea?
Well, again, I know you did send some of the paperwork in, and I did look at the paperwork. I think, I'm glad we're having this conversation right now because, I don't dislike the idea. I think, but the point is, it's not zoned properly now for the use that you're intending.
Okay, well, let's forget about the zoning right now. As the board, it's a matter of if the board doesn't like the idea, then it's not worth chasing the zoning.
In order to make that determination, I think part of that's got to be embedded in the public hearing that's got to take place to see if the public has any input to decide.
So handicap. So you don't feel that the public has got a palate for handicap.
Nope.
No,
Not saying that at all.
what he said.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
I
I think for us to make a determination for a use variance, we want the applicant to present the information why what they're doing is what they're doing. We have to have a public hearing for the public to hear what's going on, and then we'll hear feedback from the public to see if there's any opposition.
It is both a state directive and a county directive to convert commercial to, looking to convert commercial to residential.
Another
cheap.
variance for the hardship for this, just to keep it as a general business, even retail offices. You look around Baldwinsville, you see how many commercial offices are vacant for years and years, and it's very hard to rent, and citizens, residents are struggling with housing.
Right.
And this housing, like, if we're talking about the fire, what was the street, on Donner Street? The multi-unit building that got on fire in
Yes.
December, whatever? Well, this is non-combustible building.
Yeah, I think all those are good. I think, but Dennis, what you're asking the board to do right now is say whether we're in favor or not in favor. All I'm saying is we will, based on what information needs to be provided for us to make a determination of use
Right.
and a public hearing, we will make the determination when we have all the information that we need
Okay.
to.
But I guess I get an idea what we have to
But it's dollars
present.
and cents. Let me just
Yeah.
read, to you, the board has to make certain findings in order for a variance to be upheld. The first one is whether the applicant can realize a reasonable return on the property, provided that the lack of return is substantial as demonstrated by competent financial evidence. That's why I was talking about having something there in dollars and cents proof. As I say, you may be able to talk to a realtor, maybe the realtor you were involved with could come in and say, by letter or whatever, that
Like appraisal kind of
the
thing?
cost of converting this property to single-family residence would be astronomical and more than the purchase price, and you would lose money doing that.
And nobody's
Yeah.
looking for a 3,500 square foot place on a main road.
Yeah, and then, I don't think you could actually subdivide it. It's big, but you can't. You couldn't. I don't believe subdivide it into two separate residential lots. There would also have to be underground sewage and water coming in. I'm not sure exactly what the
Plus
lines
the
are.
shape of the lot, it's a little bit like,
Right, yeah.
Trapezoid.
So basically,
That's not an option.
no, it's gonna be hard.
No,
to
but I'm just
visualize
saying.
as well.
Yeah.
the reason I'm getting into all this is that we're having this discussion, and you can come at the hearing, and a record will be made, put together. And when you talk about somebody, you're standing up and saying the shape of a lot is such that this doesn't make any sense, but there's no survey or map in the record, then what you say doesn't make any, is not binding on anything. You see what I mean? That's why I say we're just like a court to a certain degree. In order for the jury to deliberate, they have to have some evidence.
Ma'am, I have a question, because in Canada we do have those regulations, I'm pretty sure you do have too, but I'm not aware of them. As a code board, would you tell me please, for the single house, what is going to be the minimum length of the front that you allow? Because I can check that as well.
Yeah, on R1A,
Yeah.
and this building is pretty close to the front. I just drove by there.
Yeah, how many, well, you use
In
yards,
R-
right?
in
How many
R1A,
yards you have to be
yeah.
deep? And how long has to be the length?
A minimum depth of 30 feet.
Minimum depth 40,
30 feet.
30 feet, okay.
From the road or from the right of way?
From the right-of-way.
And what is your right of way here?
Well, I don't know, I haven't yet to see where the right-of-way, the
Survey
road,
actually showed that
the right-of-way is
two
usually
sides
larger than the road, so.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, so again, if we tore that down, we couldn't even build on that footprint right now.
Yeah.
And what is your minimum length for the front of single residence?
The,
Front yard?
let's say the front yard has to be 30 feet.
40.
No, not the depth, I mean the length. Like,
Well-
this is the road, the front, the length of the front,
It is.
like, if, let's
And then
say,
you have to have, well, the only thing we have in this zone is your rear yard cannot be less than 40 feet deep. You'd have 40 feet there because that goes all the way, I think there's a dumpster back there too. Or there was something, there's another side building, thing back there. And it shall not cover more than 25% of the area of the lot, which it doesn't.
Yeah.
So,
25% of the area, that's what are you referring to?
yeah, the lot coverage.
Oh, the lot coverage, okay. You're talking about the building structure, right? Okay.
I have a question. Is it on the state road?
Yes.
Yes,
So it has to go to the county?
yes.
Right, so we would have to submit it.
Yes, and we have a short form EAF. And before we leave tonight, it is my opinion that this is an unlisted action for seeker purposes because of the size. So I would like to see a resolution of the board declaring it unlisted. Normally, everything we get is type 1 because it's just, not type 1, type 2, because it's just area variances. But here, I would rather have a resolution declaring it unlisted.
And what does it mean for us?
Well, that just has to do with the environmental regulations in the state. You've already presented your
Yes.
environmental assessment form, so we
Right.
have to deal with that.
Okay.
But there are different categories in New York. Type 2 means we don't even have to consider environmental issues. Type 1 means you have to go out and get a lot of stuff done. And that's usually for very, very large developments. So type unlisted just means that we just need to look at your short form EAF. And it may be that based on either the recommendation of the county planning board or the recommendation of this board, there may be some conditions relative to environmental aspects of the property, such as, and again, I would have to look and see how much of that property right now is covered with the parking area, and whether
It's practically all except the front yard and a very small
Yeah.
portion of the backyard.
so whether there needs to be a water runoff or something. That's just
So we're going to eliminate most of it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I put in the short form that we're gonna eliminate this big
So
asphalt.
that will give you, because that will actually help the property, because you don't have the water runoff either
Exactly.
to adjacent properties or to
Right.
to the street.
Yes, because we in that form I indicated that we gonna make a very good use of it environmentally because it will increase the green area.
Yes, see, that's very good.
Yes.
So that's the kind of thing in an unlisted action that we would
Okay,
look
I-
at it. Again, it's not
Because
big
when I
enough.
looked at that short form, I wanted to see if we need to go to the state, and I realized that the property is too small, and we're not planning to convert residential to commercial, but opposite. So,
Right,
and we can
and
move with the
again,
short
it just, it's not large enough so you need to have a water collection area or anything like that.
Absolutely.
But we make that determination based on what factors? I mean,
Right, but yeah, but I mean, the unlisted, you can do without that, because you look at the application, and it doesn't fit first of all, it is a use variance, and it is a change of use in the property. And so although the board generally does not deal with environmental issues, in this case, because you're changing the use, then I believe that you needed to make a determination that it's an unlisted action for environmental purposes, and the county planning board is going to want to know that.
They're going to want to know that, but I want to know next month when we have the meeting, what factors is the board looking at to make the determination? It's unlisted. Is it guidance from you or the code enforcement officer?
Oh, we can do that both. I mean, you take a look at it and see, and look, again, reading their form, see, in fact, or you can actually ask the village engineer to look at it.
That's what I was trying to get at. Is
Yeah.
who makes that call to recommend to the board that it's unlisted because?
You do.
Okay, but there's factors applied to that because...
Right, but I mean, it's just, again, it just, I guess one thing that he probably, and the county board would probably recommend is that a portion of the pavement be removed in order to eliminate water runoff and that sort of thing. But there doesn't seem to be any other environmental issues. The only environmental issues might be parking, not parking, but traffic. But in looking at the property, it looks like the entrance to the parking area is narrow enough so that you don't have like where you have an open lot and there's cars coming in and coming out all over the lot. It's very narrow when you go in, or relatively.
Definitely by
60
creating.
foot wide right now, the entrance.
Yeah, definitely by creating three residential units, we will reduce the traffic,
Right.
even compared to the daycare, because, you know, the parents come and go, and there's a lot of cars and a lot of, you know, the pollution. So and our intention, like very serious intention, to make those units only for wheelchair, reduced mobility people. So those people, they're not going to drive that often.
Right, and you're not going to have a large amount
Exactly.
of traffic.
Absolutely. We're reducing the traffic. We're reducing the use of, because we're going to install all LED newer technology, we're reducing the electricity consumption. We're reducing the water consumption compared to the daycare. Obviously, we're reducing the pavement area. We're increasing the green, and we are going to keep because when I looked at the back of the building, they're like back to back the residential properties.
Yes.
Honestly, my intention was to go talk to those people and see if they're actually disturbed by the noise that they care. Like, you know, we love the kids, but sometimes they can be a little bit noisy, right? I don't know what kind of people living in those buildings.
Yeah.
If some seniors are living and, you know, they need to sleep and they don't sleep well at night, they need to sleep during the day, and it's not going to be possible for them if some noisy activities are happening right in their backyard.
So the public hearing will give them the opportunity to
Yes.
understand what.
And it may be,
Exactly,
I
so,
can't remember, there's a wall that goes around some of those properties.
Oh, there's a
There's
fence on the
one
village.
behind.
Okay,
No.
okay.
There's a fence on the village side, 8 foot, and then just a heavy tree row that.
Right, so that provides a buffer as
We
well.
just have about 4 trees in the back, and there is no fence in the back.
That's
just the trees.
50% fenced in the back.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember, because I know we had a sign request. There is one business property down the ways from you a little bit, right at the corner.
I think it's Dennis, is that yours?
Yeah,
That's
it's
yours, yeah.
Dennis's. And that's the only one that actually zoned.
Yes.
If you look at the map,
Okay.
that's the one you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, it's Dennis's property as well.
And then
But this
when
is.
if you take a look at that, behind that is the large wall kind of goes around, separating the residential property. I just didn't know.
Yes, because this property is separated from the residential with a big hill.
Yes.
So there's no noise, there is no going up the hill. This property is back to back to residential housing because it's surrounded by all residential. And that the only, it will be reasonable and very logical to make residential properties out of it.
Yeah. You probably, the single-family residents next door to you having a yard party might make more noise than you would.
I don't think so. They've been pretty quiet so
No,
far.
I know, but I'm just what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I have another question. The packet was seeking to rezone the parcel.
Yes, this isn't going to rezone the parcel.
Well, that's what, you know, we can't do that, but what is your intention? Did you want to rezone it, or were you looking for a variance?
So is a variance for I'm looking for how to provide 3 handicap parades. So is that usage or is that variance?
Oh, what is going to be easier to do?
Well, again,
Because we're trying to save everybody's time as well.
right, and if you're coming to the zoning board, you're going to be looking for, in this case, a use variance to say, this is zoned this. We would like to do the following. And in order to do that, it's got to fall under a different category.
Well, no, there is one issue with rezoning, and that is called spot zoning, where you have an entire area that's R1A residential, and now you have one block right in the middle some people and some courts call that spot zoning. So I think you're better off, I can't be giving you any advice, but I'm just saying to this board, I think that they made the right choice.
By looking for a use variance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Makes
that's
sense.
what I want to do. If we cover the application, make sure the application was properly put out to say we need a use variance for the following things. Then what I wanted to ask again, Bob, just to make sure, I think there should be a site plan, again, showing what you're proposing to do. You know, there's going to be the pictures of the building, there's going to be 3 buildings, there's pictures of the pavement and the other areas, that what your intentions are to say we're going to remove the pavement, we're going to do this. So we can understand, or the board can understand in a public setting, what the intentions are to make a determination. There's probably some other things. We talked about the economics of the property, you know, sharing what the economics are of the property and how that could go about. What are the other components of the use variance that we need to?
Well, the normal components of an area variance, whether the hardship is unique and doesn't apply to a substantial portion of the district or neighborhood, which it doesn't. Whether it would alter the essential character of the neighborhood, and again, I can't speak for the board, but looking at the way it looks today, and
what you're proposing.
And what's proposing, it would probably improve, or could improve, the essential character of the neighborhood. The other issue is whether the hardship was self-created.
Right. And I saw some of that in the application, some of the information that you provided was trying to get to that. But I think when you look at that application and you look at the things that we want to see demonstrated, just pick them off just the way they show on the application. And in a public setting, we can make the determination and get out into the questions we have. And in the meantime, you know, the board will get a look at the property just to make sure they've all seen what the property looks like, and then we can make sure that the application is prepared properly.
And then I'll go ahead and we'll get the public notice together. And I would, for purposes of all of this, the application can be deemed to be amended to require a zoning variance from an R1.
Because we were not sure what type of application to submit.
Yes.
That's the only one we found,
Yeah.
so.
That's the advantage of this more informal meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I got a lot of information and a lot of understanding, because I deal with across the border with different codes and boarding, and you know, so.
So if that's the direction we're going, what I would ask, if that's, you're going to do the application with the use variance that we're looking for, what I'd ask is for a motion to schedule a public hearing. And can I have a motion to?
I'll make the motion to schedule a public hearing.
I'll second. I wanted to ask about going to the county, because we have to send it to the county, then we have to wait a month, and then we would.
Well, I'd have to take a look. I don't have their current their current schedule right with me right now. I should probably bring that all the time. But
either way, we have to.
Yeah, why don't you grab that?
Yeah, either way, we have to schedule it. So all in favor of the public hearing, just to get that out of the way? Okay.
And then it would be good to have, unless there's any questions, a resolution declaring this an unlisted action for seeker purposes.
And you need that now?
Well,
I don't think so.
I would like to have, again, this is not ruling on anything but how it's categorized.
Right, and the only thing I would like to do is see the application.
Okay.
And get it to the engineer so I can just confirm.
Okay.
That the board is okay doing that. That's just me. I just think that's more.
Well, you can do that. Well, you can do that at the next meeting, but it has to be done.
Yeah.
And again, the declaration of it being unlisted has nothing to do with the environmental aspects of the property. It just is. It doesn't fit the requirements for Type 1, and it doesn't fit the requirements for Type 2 because it's a use variance. If they were coming in to get a variance for a fence, that's an area variance. That's Type 2, and you don't even have to worry about it. And that's the way
so
all
you're saying
works
any
out.
use variance would fall into that same category. I want to think about that, but I think we can still do that just as, it's not going to slow anything down by.
No.
making
I'll just,
information.
on the application to the county, I'll just say it has not been determined yet.
Okay.
And then again, they will need to look. They will need to look at the EAF, the short form EAF. But I also would like, if you acquired the property, when you acquired it, you would have received a survey.
Yeah, they did not have one. Yeah, we've been working on getting one, but they're backlogged. And we bought it as is, you know, they didn't have an abstract or a survey, we had to.
They didn't provide us abstract of the
Yeah, we
survey.
have a current abstract that we got, that's what delayed.
Okay, the county's going to want to see a survey, or a map of the place, because,
Okay.
so that, I'm surprised that how long have the sellers owned the property?
15 years. They never saw the property once.
It was out of state.
Yeah, Chinese guy and whatever, you know, he had no abstract.
From California, right?
California.
It was in California.
Okay.
Yeah, so obviously, I mean, we live across the street, and, you know, the tax map it was very clear of where the two neighbors are.
All right, but the tax map doesn't show the building.
Right, or the improvements, and I think that's one of the things that, you know, we'll want to understand.
Okay, well, the building hasn't moved.
Right, understood.
In 100 years, yeah, so.
No, but the county's going to want to see, they can't make a determination. Like I said, the same thing that courts do. All they have at the county planning board is a bunch of papers. And it's required by law, because it's adjacent to a county road. It's required that we send this to them for their recommendations and approval or whatever.
Okay, I have a question. Since the surveys they're so backlogged because we contacted some survey agencies and we were trying to find a existing survey on that property. Do they have some deadlines for that? Can we do ourselves like a mapping with the location of the building, or it has to be absolutely certified?
Well,
Because if we're gonna wait for the survey companies and we're gonna miss the deadline from the county,
well, I mean, if you get an architect or someone to
Do a site plan.
a site plan.
Site plan.
They might be able to.
it's gonna
They
work.
might be able to do that with.
I mean, I'm still calling each survey company, you know, so far I've been calling survey companies trying to find,
Yeah, well, this is the beginning of the season, so it's.
yeah, and they're out, you know, they're
Some
out.
of the elements you were trying to actually convey regarding the economics, like the rear setback, the front setback, those would help if you had the survey map in front of us anyway, to be able to demonstrate, you know, this is what the situation is, the current situation, and, you know, by trying to
They have a
raise
list.
the building and rebuild, we're
Just
limited
like
on.
we do,
So the
submit
survey
your
map would help in a lot of different ways,
application
so definitely it'd be beneficial, so.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's gonna just show that rebuilding and tearing down the building is absolutely economically not reasonable to do.
Exactly, and it's hard to do that with, even though we know the building's been there, you know the building's been there because you can see it. But the people that are going to be reviewing this, either, it's just, whether it's the county or whether it's us, it's just a lot easier. We've done this before. We've actually had somebody didn't get a survey, then they presented us with a survey and it actually showed a completely different thing. So it's just important to have it so that we are all.
Okay, so as you said, the site map will still do the job, right?
Should do the job.
Okay,
So,
all right.
I think we can try to go for the April 30th meeting, but we need to see what the deadline date is for submission to them.
Oh, the county, right, okay.
But they're pretty good about that. I mean, I did the same thing with the local law on the VFW building. And that went in like the day before the deadline, and they had no problem putting it on the agenda and getting a
And what
resolution.
you supplied them was the site plan or a survey.
The site plan, the application.
With the application.
Yeah. But we do need, and I don't know if we have a formal application.
No, we definitely need the application to reflect what we're trying to do, so.
Right.
Yeah, if you don't mind to share the proper application that we have to fill.
Yeah,
The codes office can do that.
Yes, yeah, they can, as long as they know, again, to be clear, if it was filled out incorrectly because
Are these my copies?
you
or
thought
did you-
E2 or something
Okay.
else was there, what we're looking for is a use variance to convert.
Okay, the deadline for the April 30th meeting is Friday, April 18th.
April 18th,
So if we don't make that date, then it's May 21st.
this Friday?
I'm sorry?
Oh, That's too short.
This Friday and what would we need by this Friday, the site plan?
But the application.
The application for the use variance
And
that
and
we
the
don't
and the
have.
site plan, so maybe we
And
need,
site plan.
maybe we're gonna have to, I guess we can do a number of things. We can hold the hearing and
And then hold a resolution until we hear
hold the
back.
resolution until we hear back from county planning.
Yeah, and if they come back with something that we need to reconsider or reconvene, I will reconvene, but that would at least keep everything moving. You could have the public hearing, we could get that straight around, and get the process moving.
What's
Yes.
going to be the next board at the council?
The next one is April 30th, that would be May 21st. And they're very good. They will, the next day, their recommendations come out.
Okay, because unfortunately Dennis is going into a surgery 7:15 tomorrow morning. So he's going to be like out of
What's
all.
that?
Well, I don't know if we'll be able to present whatever is missing until this Friday.
We'll make that.
Well, I'll try to make it happen, but the worst case scenario can
But I
be.
think, yeah, you need to work with the codes office.
Okay,
And then they need to actually complete the application forms that we have. And there's a filing fee for that.
Yeah, he submitted the 100.
Oh,
Oh,
okay. So we
okay.
just need to have the formal application form. So once they sign that, if you could just send me that copy, then
Okay.
we can kind of go from there.
will you be able to respond to the email that we sent the documents to with the proper application form?
What do you mean?
I think it's
I
available
sent
online.
those, yeah, I sent those to Bob.
Okay,
Yes, I'll send those to.
Well, let's be clear though, whatever was, what's wrong with the current application?
Well, we have an official form.
Oh, it's not the official?
No.
Okay. Which is online, by the way.
Michelle, are you here tomorrow?
Yes,
What time?
2:30.
Why don't you just come over here at 2:30 now and be with us?
yes, can I?
Yeah,
Tomorrow,
absolutely.
2:30? Perfect. So,
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Just note, in your packet, you had two different addresses. You had 2728 and 2827. That threw me.
28, 27.
28, 27,
Yeah,
oh,
27,
I see.
Yeah, there was a...
It's too close and sometimes.
It threw me a couple times. so-
2728 isn't in the village.
Yeah, that's what I was...
I don't even think it exists. Tomorrow, and your name is, Misha? Misha?
So, any other questions from either of you about where we're at with this?
Yeah, I'm glad we had the informal so we could just kind of,
Yes, that was very informative.
you know, figure it out from the outside.
Now, then I appreciate you sharing what you're trying to do, and we'll
Did we actually have the date for our public hearing? Did we?
be our next meeting.
Yeah, is there, it said it for the next meeting, because I don't know as if we actually,
It's in my,
I don't even know if we said next meeting.
oh, for the public hearing?
Yeah, I know. Should be May 12th.
Yeah, that's a good catch, but,
No, you can't.
so again, we need to modify our motion to have the public hearing for this May, the next zoning board meeting, which is in May. So,
We gotta officially amend it.
Well, they did, I'm sorry, they did create one.
yeah, I thought so, but I wasn't sure if it was the wrong one,
Okay.
so.
So I'll just need copies of that.
And is it filled out properly with what they're intending to do? You know, it's a use variance that they're looking for to go from A to B?
So we're trying to explain the best of our knowledge.
Yeah, that's why I just want to make sure it's right that way. So when we get to the public hearing, we're reviewing an application that states what you're trying to achieve,
That is use variance.
and it's to do what to what?
Yeah, I think if you could just initial this, change it, because it says general business, commercial 1. If you could just change that to R1A and initial it.
Yeah, that'll.
And then the same thing down here, R1A.
Right.
Oh, thank you very much. Code alone, so instead of GB commercial non-combustible, so we're gonna put R1A.
R1A.
Okay.
Oh, and then,
Cross out the,
yeah, just initial.
I have
And then
another
this one
thing.
too. This says G, this one, just cross that out and initial R1A.
So you want me to cross that
Yeah,
out?
yeah.
Did that get sent out to us?
Sent out Friday.
Yeah, she sent it out, but I didn't print it because we knew there were some technicalities wrong, and that's what we wanted to discuss today, so. Once we get these, we'll just resend them. That's what we're going to see next month.
Thank you very much.
And the separate spaces are within the building.
I'm sorry?
Friday, we.
I don't think that was-
It says here 3 separate spaces with independent utilities on a main road.
Right now,
The allowances. What you're converting is to 3 fully handicapped living residences, not separate buildings, but,
oh, no. Just units in one building.
yes, okay,
Yes. No separate buildings, that's for sure.
yes.
It's just the point where
Right.
we wrote that they open up the corridor and it goes from one to the third one, like across the building. So we won't.
Right, but you are
We're
going,
not making any structural changes.
correct, internal, not external.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
okay.
yeah, the external will be eliminated, fencing, eliminated pavement.
Oh, absolutely, and painting or whatever you do, but that's not,
Right.
Painting and, yeah.
So let's just recap. So the application now, you modified, that'll be.
Acceptable?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next month, at the public hearing, what you'll bring is you'll bring the site plan survey map, whatever you've got to show us what's going on. You'll have submitted the other information with the application, and you're going to be prepared to talk about the elements of the variance that we're going to be looking at. You know, again, detrimental use to the neighborhood, change, all the things that actually are in that application, they state right in there. It would just be useful if you could speak to those points and say, this is, you know, here's the economics of what's going on. Here's how it's going to contribute to the betterment of the neighborhood or whatever is going to go on. All those elements are right in there, and it's easiest for us to look at those if you're kind of
but
walking
we
through
do need
those.
some dollar figures.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Yes, yeah, I got that.
That's the economic piece.
Does the seeker form go to the county?
I'm sorry?
The seeker form, does that go to the county?
Yes,
I think we should talk, there's a couple of things I think we need to talk about on that
okay.
from what was submitted. Front page, item 2, does the proposed action require permit or approval or funding from any other government agency? That should be yes, because it's going to go to the county. Is that?
No, this would be, no, it doesn't need, that's other than the county, that doesn't need to be changed, because no, they don't need approval from the highway authority or from, you know.
Okay, just a question.
Yeah.
Another one, 5, is the proposed action A permitted under the zoning regulation? It's checked as yes,
The answer is no.
and yes, so
And that would, yeah, that's, so that would, anyway, I can, with a forwarding letter, I can explain that they're asking for a variance.
only another one maybe. And Matt was asking about public transportation services available at or near the site of the proposed action. It's checked as yes.
I don't know what public,
Public transportation?
Public.
Do you have public transportation in Baldwinsville?
Yes.
Well, there's some
Not
buses
that
that go through, but I
not
don't think on
far.
that.
Yeah, I don't think
What
there's a bus.
near? That was a question. How near? Because near, it doesn't explain how near it has
I
to
know.
be. It's not that far from the village. It's just across, like, it's on Salina Street. Salina Street is,
Yeah, I think it is.
is right here. This is the building.
Right, you're like a mile
Yeah.
outside the village.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe
Most of it's
that's-
going to be handicap access transportation.
Right, so I don't think it's near public.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say that.
Okay.
So should we change that on the
Yeah.
form they submitted, so that should go to no?
Right.
And then we gotta change 5A.
Yeah, that's why these things need to go through our codes officer first.
Right, that's what I was going to say. It's like, that's who should be reviewing this to make sure
Yeah.
that that's a complete application.
5.8, right? Permitted use of the I see it somewhere.
Well, thank you for your time.
Okay. Yeah, just so we're not beating this up, just this one last point, just so we're clear on this. I do want to have, again, that form and the application form reviewed by the code enforcement officer, just to make sure we're good. If there's any questions, they can keep calling you and say, this should be this, so that we're not doing this, because it's, and we'll go from there. But if you've got other questions, I appreciate your time. It's good.
Thank you very, very much. It was very informative.
Folks, anything else to discuss? No. Motion to adjourn?
Moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.